A few years ago, some of us were involved in something called Who Cares? It was a survey that was done all around Norfolk, and we did it on the estate around here, asking a single question survey, asking people simply, what hurts the most? And the answers were really interesting. To begin with, we focused within the church and within those who came to various groups that we were running. It was mostly sort of older people, and the answers were generally about physical pain, illness, injury. What hurts the most? Once we went out and started surveying on the park and surveying on the houses locally, and we started speaking to younger people, it was interesting that their answers were much more about relationships rather than physical pain. Being let down, being stabbed in the back, breakdown of relationships, being cheated on. Although in both groups, both old and young, there was a strong focus on family. Nobody can hurt us like those who are closest to us. As Jesus neared the cross, he faced some of the greatest hurts that anybody can face. He was about to face crucifixion and the awful pain, the physical pain that would go with crucifixion. He would have to say goodbye, at least for this earthly life, to his loved ones. He would see his own mother distraught at what was happening to him. And he would face rejection by somebody very close to him. How close? Well, it was Judas, it was one of the 12. And Jesus called those disciples brothers. He considered them to be family. And it was Judas, one of those he called brothers, who was going to betray him. On the cross, he would even cry out to God the Father and ask why he had been forsaken. He even felt let down by God. Physical pain, emotional pain, rejection, family hurts, even apparent rejection by God. I wonder if that sounds familiar to any of us. Have we ever gone through that sort of gamut of emotions? Maybe not all at once, maybe over at different times. They're the kind of pains that we face. Physical, emotional, family, even feeling rejected by God. Maybe there's some here going through those kind of pains at the moment. If you've been through them, you know the darkness that can envelop us when we go through those days. How everything can feel dark, lost, hidden. It is really telling that the final words in this passage, verse 30, says, and it was night. I think in one sense that's just a factual statement. It was night time. But it's saying something much more as well. As Judas went out to betray Jesus, it was night. Darkness was descending on the situation. As Jesus faced these terrible hurts, he encouraged us as we go through similar things in our own lives. He set us examples for us to follow. The first lesson that we learn from this, the point that actually runs right the way through this whole passage and right the way through into the crucifixion account, is that in fact, even in the darkest times, God is in control. Do we like letting go of control? So often we don't like feeling that we're not entirely in control of our own destiny. When things go wrong, we like to think that we can cope with it on our own. To admit we need help is a sign of weakness. But knowing God means that we have to confess our need of God. We need the help that He alone is able to give us. We need the help that He's able to give us directly. We also need the help that God gives us through His people. If God puts us in a church, it's for a reason. It's so that the people around us can help us and support us as we go through difficult times. And you know, they can only do that if they know the things that we're going through. Getting to know God, being one of His child, means admitting we need His help. We need Him to help us. And we need His people to help us. We have to admit that even the faith that we have in God actually comes from Him. We're so dependent on God that actually we didn't choose God. He chose us to be His disciples. Verse 18 says, Jesus says, I know those I have chosen. If you're a disciple of Jesus Christ, He chose you. We cannot claim any credit for our salvation. It is entirely a gift of God. The faith that we have in Jesus is a gift from God. With that humility that we have to have in recognizing that everything comes from God, comes a wonderful, incredible knowledge that all those things that would frighten us, all the things that would make life difficult or painful, actually are under God's authority and God's control. Verse 18 continues that this is to fulfill the scripture, he who shares my bread has lifted up his heel against me. That terrible, dark things were about to happen to Jesus. Judas thought that he was in control. He was making a choice to betray Jesus, and yes, he was making that choice. But what Judas didn't realize is that actually he was being used by Satan. Satan was using Judas to try and bring an end to the work of Jesus Christ. Satan thought he was in control by bringing about the darkest day of all, when the Son of God was going to die on a cross. But what we discover from these verses, that actually it was all part of God's plan. From the beginning of time, it had been God's plan for Jesus to go through it. He was in control even in these darkest moments. None of that means that Judas is innocent. He made choices with his own mind. He chose to betray Jesus, just as many today choose to betray Jesus. And when people hurt or reject us, they're making decisions that they are responsible for to hurt us or to reject us. And as verse 20 points out, when they reject us, ultimately they're rejecting Jesus and they're rejecting God. We don't need to fear what they could do to us. We don't need to fear the dark days that they're able to bring upon us when they reject us and hurt us. Because God has those days in His hand. He will work things together for the good of those who love Him. He remains in control. Which might prompt a question in our mind. If God is in control and is working all things together for a particular reason, why doesn't He tell us what he's doing. So often we would like to know, wouldn't we? God, if all of this, if you're in control of, then tell us what you're doing. Tell us where this is leading. I think Jesus' words in here give us a clue as to why he sometimes does, but very often doesn't. Verse 19, Jesus says, I'm telling you this before it happens, so that when it does happen, you will believe that I am he. I am the one I've always claimed to be. I am the Messiah that you've been waiting for. He reveals to them a little bit of what is going to happen. But he tells them why. It's to strengthen their faith. There are so many things that go on in my life and in the life of this church. I would love God to reveal to me where it's heading. I would love him to reveal to me why those things are happening. Why or when are we going to start seeing real growth here in this church? Why have so many left us over these last 6 months? Why are certain things happening to our children at the moment? Some really rough things that our children are going through right now. God, why is Donald Trump President of America? So many questions around the world. Why are these things happening? But if God revealed them to me, would it actually help me? Would it help me to make better decisions? Would it strengthen my faith? Would it bring me closer to God? Probably not. Which is why he hasn't shown me why those things are happening. Jesus does sometimes reveal things about the future, but it's always for a particular purpose, always for a good reason in that situation. Here's some of the things that Jesus reveals to his disciples about the future, and each time he tells them it's for a particular reason. Chapter 14, verse 29, I am going away and coming back to you. I have told you this now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you will believe. Chapter 16, verse 1, you will testify about me. All this I have told you, so that you will not go astray. 16 verses 2 and 4, a time is coming when anyone who kills you will think that they are doing a service. I have told you this, so that when the time comes, you will remember that I warned you. I did not tell you this at first, because I was with you. 16 verse 32, a time is coming when you will be scattered. I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. 4 times Jesus reveals something that's going to happen, but each time he says it's for a particular reason. It's for the benefit of his disciples, to strengthen their faith, to strengthen their courage, to reassure them of the point we've already made, that ultimately God is in control. We'd love God to reveal to us what he's doing. And I'm convinced that gifts of prophecy do still exist in the church, and sometimes God does reveal those kind of things. But if he doesn't, it's for a reason. He doesn't reveal things just to please our inquiring minds. He only reveals something if it's to build our faith and our courage. Knowing that God is in control, and knowing that he doesn't always reveal to us what's happening, we need to choose how to respond when the dark times come. Some people respond very well to difficulties. We all know the kind of people who actually seem to come alive when the pressure is really on. They're great in those difficult situations. I'm not always that person. congregation got below 10, I was hurt. I was stunned, I was confused. I wondered why God was allowing that to happen. When things go really wrong in my family, sometimes I become pretty useless. When our daughter Cassandra was about 10 years old, she fell over and broke her arm. She doesn't do anything by heart. She did it really quickly. Her arm became sort of swan neck kind of shape. When we went off with her to the hospital, and the nurse threw me out of the room where my daughter was, because she looked at me, I'd gone absolutely completely pale, and she was convinced I was about to faint. And she said, "We don't want 2 casualties to deal with, get out." Military nurses come out. I don't deal well with difficult situations at times. I know in my head that God is in control. I know in my head that He works all things together for the good of those who love Him. I know that there is nothing in heaven or on earth that can separate me from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. I know these things because I've been teaching them for 10 years, but in those dark moments, I sometimes choose to look at the problems rather than at the Almighty God who's in control of everything. In those moments, I choose to feel hurt. In the moments where people let me down, I choose to get bitter. I choose to harbour grudges. But Jesus shows us a better way. Jesus shows us there's a far better way of dealing with these things than harbouring these grudges and hurts and looking at the problems. He knew that He was about to die. He knew that He was about to be betrayed by one that He spoke of as a brother. What did He do? He reached down and He shared food with the person who's about to reject Him. So in the culture of that time, sharing food with somebody is the ultimate sign of friendship. To reject a host was the ultimate bad manners in that society. Yet Jesus continued to be a good host and to show love and compassion and grace even to the one who was about to reject Him. It wasn't that He was naive, He knew exactly what was going to happen. It wasn't that He was a superman who was super brave. It tells us here His heart was troubled by what was about to happen. He was deeply disturbed knowing what was going to come. But He chose to show love and compassion. You know, it's so good for us that Jesus chooses to show love and compassion and grace to those who reject Him. Because we, in our own way, have all rejected Jesus at some time. We've all been effectively His enemy when we've done things that are completely against what He wants. And yet Jesus showed us compassion and grace and mercy and love. We need Jesus to look upon us with that grace so that we may know God as our Father, so that we can be forgiven for what we've done wrong. And so He shows us a better way of dealing with those difficulties. And fourthly, even through Jesus' acts of love and grace, God has the victory. Even in what appear to be the darkest moments, God has the victory. Now, I've already said that Judas thought that he was in control, Satan thought he was in control, but actually it was all part of God's plan. It's a plan that God has had since the very, very beginnings of time. Right back in Genesis, right back in the Garden of Eden. God said to Satan, "I will put enmity between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel." Even there, God was looking forward to the time when the offspring of a woman would crush the head, that's the power, the authority of Satan. God was going to have the victory, even in what appeared to be the darkest possible time in world history. Satan's work, what Satan wants, is to prevent us coming to Jesus. Is to prevent us being effective workers for Jesus. Is to prevent us becoming born again. But if we will humble ourselves and put our faith in Jesus who have died for us, the Bible tells us we're completely forgiven our sin. And we become children of God. All because of what happened in those darkest days when Satan thought he had the victory. And if God can work in the darkness of a day like that, if God can work in the darkness of his own Son being crucified on a cross, how much more can he work in the darkness that we go through sometimes? I know things might look difficult at times and painful and hurt. God can do amazing things through those times. God can have an incredible victory of doing something amazing through the hurts and the pains and the difficulties that we go through. God is in control. He doesn't always show us what's happening. If he doesn't, it's for our own good in some way that we can't see. We can choose how to respond to those darkest times, taking Jesus as our example. But God will have the victory, even in those very darkest of days.